Hello friends, fantastic to be able to spend this time again with you today. Stu Cameron is my name, Superintendent Minister and CEO for Wesley Mission. And in this season, it's been my privilege, as well as my friend and colleague Rick Dacey's privilege and joy, to be able to share with you a word of encouragement a few times a week. And we really hope this has been blessing you and encouraging you in the season that we all find ourselves traversing. Years ago, our family were living in Adelaide, and the capital of South Australia, for those of you who are outside of Australia. And our children were young at the time. They were in primary school. And a storm swept through the city late one night. It was early in the early hours of the morning, I think, in fact. And as you would expect with a storm, there was thunder, there was lightning, there was rain. And in this one particular moment, we were half awake because of the storm coming through. In this one particular moment, there was this incredibly loud clap of thunder, like it was over the top of our house. And simultaneously, there was this incredibly bright flash of lightning. I mean, they just happened at the same time. I mean, the lightning must have struck the ground somewhere very close by to our house. And the whole house rattled. And we were half awake before that, but now we were fully awake. And I kid you not, within only a couple of seconds, our kids who slept at the other end of the house, they were both on our bed, absolutely terrified, fully awake themselves, as was the dog that we owned at the time. We were all fully awakened by the strength of the storm. I remember many years later, Sue and I were traveling with friends in the United States. We're in Washington, D.C., and we were on the mall going in and out of the Smithsonian Museum, having a fantastic time. And a storm swept through, and we were absolutely drenched, saturated, trying to find a safe place to shelter as thunder and lightning were all around us. Eventually, we were able to convince an Uber driver to pick us up, and we all saturated, piled into his car to go back to the apartment that we'd been hiring. But that's the nature of storms. Storms, they usually only last for a little while. They come and they go, but they can have a profound impact. The season we find ourselves in, there are a lot of different metaphors you could use for it, for the pandemic that we've been experiencing this last 18 months, a wildfire. There are a lot of different disaster metaphors you could use, because it is a disaster that the whole world is experiencing right now. Another metaphor you could use is a storm. The thing about this particular storm, though, of course, is that it's not lasting for a moment, and its impact isn't just in a moment, but it's lasting a long period of time, and its impact is going to last for a lot longer than the actual pandemic itself lasts. And we all find ourselves in this particular place. I was reminded this week of a story in Jesus' day of when his disciples found themselves in a storm, and Jesus was with them. And the story unfolds in Mark's Gospel, where the disciples and Jesus in the middle of the night were crossing the lake, and a storm swept through, which was often the case on the lake, on the Sea of Galilee. It was nestled below sea level with hills on three sides, and so winds would often gather and sweep down the hillsides and from the mountains of Lebanon and form these quick, sharp, hard storms. And the wind and the waves of that storm that it whipped up, it threatened to overwhelm the boat. And the disciples, including 4 fishermen who were used to the lake and used to storms, they were terrified. In fact, the scriptures tell us that the boat was filling with water. They were thinking, this is it. Meanwhile, Jesus is in the back of the boat and he's asleep on a cushion. And they wake him up, as you would. They know that he has the power to overwhelm the storm. They wake him up. Jesus, what are you doing? Why are you asleep? Don't you know that we're about to be sunk, that we're about to capsize, that we could lose our lives? Well, what is it? They were indignant. They were terrified, but they were indignant. And Jesus gets up. And he says to the wind and the waves, he says to the storm, peace, be still. Peace, be still. And the wind and the waves, they settle and they continue on their way. You know, in this season, you might find your life like the boat of the disciples was filling with water, your life filling with trouble, with anxiety, with worry, and it threatens to overwhelm you. And here's my invitation to you today. Will you invite Jesus to say to the troubles, the wind, the waves, the storm that threaten to overwhelm you, whatever they might be, can you hear the words of Jesus saying, "Peace, be still"? You know, last week I shared how in this world we will have troubles, but in this world we also have the presence of God that goes with us. You know, I am so encouraged that no matter what season I find myself in, that God is with me. I'm reminded of the words attributed to John Wesley on his deathbed. He was, by one of his biographers, he was told to have said 2 or 3 times, whispered under his failing breath, the best of all is, God is with us. The best of all is, God is with us. And in this season, this prolonged season of a storm, with trouble, with anxiety, with worry, with disappointment, with hurt, with loss and grief, all of these things, the best of all is, God is with us. Can I encourage you to be encouraged by that very statement and to hear the words of Jesus to the wind and the waves in your life, whatever they might be, peace be still. Before I finish, I just want to give a shout out to the incredible people, the amazing teams of Wesley Mission. You know, right now here in Sydney and across New South Wales, well over 1,000 of our staff now find themselves in profoundly impacted local government areas where just to do your work, to do their work, they have to be tested every 3 days. You know, with people who are essential authorised workers who are going into our aged care homes, who are offering in-home care to elderly residents, who are working in disability accommodation or in our community housing or homeless services. A whole range, a myriad of different ways are walking with and standing with some of the most vulnerable in our community. You are incredible. I'm so grateful for all that you do. And for those of you who support us as a Wesley Mission family, you may not be a staff member, but you're very much a part of who we are. Can I encourage you to be praying for those essential authorised workers? I can only imagine how demanding this season is for them. Can you stand with me in praying for them, for our aged care workers, for our in-home care workers, our disability support workers, accommodation workers, our homeless support workers, for all who work across the Wesley Mission family in this frontline way? I'm just so blessed by what they do and the impact and the transformation they're bringing in this season in particular. Can I encourage you to be praying for them as well? Finally, as I finish, we love being able to pray for you. So if you have a prayer request, please just let us know through the email addresses that are available or by leaving a comment here or contacting us in some other way. We love the privilege of being able to pray with you and stand with you in that way. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll continue to offer these words of encouragement. Hopefully they are a blessing to you. God bless, and remember, the best of all is God is with us.